Working with input files is a little bit different than writing to an output. When you're working with an input file, remember you're just replacing an input from the keyboard with input from a file. So let's say, for example, you ask the user to enter in a number, an integer. And the user would enter in a number on the keyboard and press enter. Now we have to mimic that same thing with an input file. Remember that I said that a file is sequential, so it looks at it as if it's just one big long string. So the first thing you want to do is create your file. To create your file, you want to use Notepad. So your computer should have Notepad. Just type in Notepad, it finds the app. And Notepad is just a way of typing in some text. Let's say, for example, we want to write a program that's going to read 3 integers from the file. So I'm going to put integer 1, enter, integer 2, enter. Remember, this is mimicking what a user would do on a keyboard, right? You would type in the number, you would press enter, and then the third one, and press enter. That's what a user would do. Now you want to save it. So save as and navigate to the folder where you store your program. I have my structure, I have ntrip, CPS 120, and sample program. So I'm going to save it here, and I'm going to call it input numbers. Notice that it puts in the .txt for you. Click save. Okay, so now you have this file and you want to read these 1, 2, 3 numbers from the file. So now go over to Dev C++ and create a program that does just that. So we're not going to use a loop this first time. In this first program, I have the include fstream. That's my step 1. Then I have declared 3 variables for num1, num2, and num3. I'm going to read those 3 values. The next thing is a step 2, declare your object. So I am using ifstream, and I'm going to name my variable infile. Step 3 is to open it, so I have infile.open, and this should be the name that I just created. So I'm going to change this. Let's go confirm what I called it. Input numbers with a capital N. Now, if you get something wrong here, like instead of using that capital N for numbers, I put in a lowercase n, it would not be able to find the file and it would give me an error. Or you would just see nothing. So you have to be sure that you get this exactly right. Remember that this is a string because it's in quotation marks and it's comparing character for character. So if it finds something different, like a lowercase n, or I don't have an S on the end, then it won't find the file. Step 4 is to actually use your file. So instead of writing a cin statement to read num1 from the keyboard, you're going to write in file. You're using the variable name you created. The operator points in the same direction, and then the variable name you created for the numbers. So now we want to do 3 of these. Now, if I just left my program the way it is, how would you know what was stored in num1? You would not know. I'm not using it in a calculation or anything. So what I want to do is display it on the console. So now I'm going to take and do a cout for num1 so you can see what gets stored in there and if it read the data correctly. I'm going to do the same thing for each of the other variables. Okay, so now I have 3 cout statements so that we can confirm if in fact these numbers were read incorrectly. And then step 5, I labeled this wrong. Step 5 is finally to close the file. So your variable name and then close. Remember, there's nothing in the parentheses here, unlike this. You don't need to put the parentheses or the name in the parentheses. And now I'm going to give it a run and see. Okay, so make sure you're in the exact same folder where you created your file. So I was in ntrip CPS 120 sample programs, and I'm going to call it sample input file. Okay, so it looks like it displayed them correctly. That means that it must have read them incorrectly. And that's it for using input files.